Welcome back to the Stephen A. Smith Show. Before I get on out of here, I had to talk about a story that's very, very important. And albeit indirectly, it involves Caitlin Clark.
The WNBA is standing on the edge of something massive, but this time, the shockwave might not come from a single player. It's coming from a calculated, almost genius-level move that could redefine the league as we know it. Forget everything you think you know about super teams, because the 2026 blueprint that's emerging isn't just bold, it's revolutionary. And at the center of it all, Caitlin Clark and a co-star so unexpected, it borders on brilliance. This isn't some fan-made fantasy roster. This is a vision so explosive that someone like Stephen A. Smith would be shouting about it on First Take. A team so powerful, so perfectly constructed, it would send shockwaves through the league and leave even NBA GMs studying the blueprint. We're talking about a basketball chemistry experiment that pairs the sport's brightest offensive light with the perfect complementary firepower. A formula that echoes what turned the Golden State Warriors into a dynasty and made the Miami Heat's Big Three era appointment television. Only this time, it's happening in the WNBA, and the ripple effect could change everything. At the core of this potential empire is one undeniable truth. Caitlin Clark is a generational talent, but even legends need the right cast to unlock their full championship ceiling. Enter Sophie Cunningham, the league's most relentless competitor. Clark brings the artistry, that deep-range magic and offensive brilliance, while Cunningham brings the grit, the toughness, and the relentless energy that championship teams are built on. Imagine Clark raining threes from the logo while Cunningham clamps down on the opposing team's star player. Flash and fight, skill and steal, a duo built to dominate every inch of the court. But what makes this pairing truly brilliant runs deeper than just talent. Clark thrives when surrounded by defenders who can handle the dirty work, letting her conserve energy and attack on offense. That's exactly what Cunningham provides. She's not just a defender, she's a tone setter. The kind of player who makes her opponent's life miserable from the opening tip to the final buzzer. She fights through screens, plays physically, and sets the emotional tone every great team needs. And don't overlook the leadership factor. Cunningham's been through the wars, playoff battles, elimination games, and high-pressure moments. She's built for the grind. She's the kind of veteran presence who wouldn't just play alongside Clark. She'd protect her, teach her, and help her handle the spotlight that comes with being the face of a super team. Together, they create not just a winning formula, but a culture, one built on fire, focus, and fearlessness. Now imagine the reaction. You can practically hear Stephen A. Smith's voice booming through ESPN. This is what the WNBA needs. A super team with personality, with grit, with showtime. Because this isn't just a hypothetical lineup, it's a statement. A vision of what the next era of women's basketball could look like. A team that would ignite the league, dominate headlines, and redefine what's possible in the WNBA. This is more than a roster. It's a revolution, one that starts with Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham. A masterclass in team-building brilliance, and the kind of move that could change the league forever. A bold prediction, a headline grabber, a move designed to dominate both the scoreboard and the sports conversation for years to come. This is exactly the kind of blockbuster roster that Stephen A. Smith would live for: disruptive, controversial, and absolutely brilliant. He'd call it a necessary evolution, the kind of shakeup that transforms the WNBA from a niche league into must-see TV. Because make no mistake, this isn't just about basketball. It's about creating the type of storylines and star power that catapult a league into the cultural mainstream. And when you see the rest of this projected 2026 lineup, you'll understand why. Picture Stephen A. on First Take, finger pointed at the camera, declaring with conviction, "This is exactly what the WNBA needs. Greatness attracts attention. Dominance drives conversation." He'd remind viewers that casual sports fans don't just watch games, they tune in to witness greatness. They crave dynasties, rivalries, and personalities that command screens across America. Just look at what happened when the Warriors went supernova, or when LeBron formed the Miami Heat's Big Three. Controversy fueled viewership, and viewership fueled revenue. This WNBA super team would do exactly that. It would be appointment television. The kind of lineup that breaks through the noise, trends every night, and turns every matchup into a national event. Stephen A. would hammer home that this isn't about destroying competition. It's about elevating it. When one team becomes a cultural juggernaut, the whole league rises. Rival arenas sell out when the super team comes to town. Highlight reels go viral. The WNBA's footprint expands exponentially. And best of all, other teams respond, building their own power squads to keep up, forcing an arms race of talent and intensity. That's how you build a league that matters, one that commands attention, headlines, and respect. Now, let's break down what this dream roster could actually look like. Joining Caitlin Clark, the offensive architect, and Sophie Cunningham, the enforcer, are three more critical pieces that complete the machine. At center, you'd need an anchor, a rim protector who rebounds at an elite level, sets hard screens, and dominates the paint. Think a Brianna Jones type, strong enough to bang inside, yet mobile enough to switch onto smaller players. This player doesn't need 20 points a night. Their value comes from doing the dirty work, controlling the glass, creating second chances, and punishing defenders who dare to double Clark on the perimeter. At power forward, versatility is everything. Picture a Breanna Stewart or Aya Wilson archetype, a hybrid who can guard multiple positions, knock down corner threes, and stretch the floor to open driving lanes. In today's positionless basketball, this player is the glue, able to guard wings, contest shots, and force defenders to stay honest. Their shooting keeps defenses spread, giving Clark more room to operate from deep. The final piece, a second playmaker. A guard or wing who can create their own shot, handle pressure, and make defenses pay when they overload on Clark. Someone crafty, capable of attacking closeouts, running secondary offense, and thriving in transition. This isn't just a scorer, but a connector, the player who keeps the offense humming when Clark sits or draws double teams. Together, these five players would form the most dangerous combination in WNBA history. Not because of individual dominance, but because of chemistry, balance, and sacrifice. Each role is perfectly defined, each piece amplifying the others. That's the brilliance of this vision. It's not just a super team, it's a system. A collection of basketball assassins engineered for one purpose, total domination. Stephen A. would call it inevitable. Fans would call it unmissable. And the league would never be the same again. A team this stacked wouldn't just dominate headlines, it would ignite chaos. The moment whispers of this roster surfaced, the basketball world would erupt. How did one team pull off something this outrageous? What backroom deals were made? Who took pay cuts and why? The speculation would be endless and the backlash immediate. Because let's be honest, not everyone would be celebrating. From the second this super team was announced, rival fan bases would lose their minds. It's unfair. The league's rigged. They're ruining competition. Social media would catch fire with accusations of a WNBA monopoly on talent, with threads dissecting every possible conspiracy behind the scenes. Twitter, or X, would explode with side-by-side comparisons to Kevin Durant joining the Warriors. Reddit would be overflowing with theories about tampering and secret meetings. Sports talk shows would dedicate entire hours debating whether this is the WNBA's greatest leap forward, or the end of fair competition as we know it. Traditionalists and purists would have a field day. They'd mourn the death of organic team building, reminiscing about the eras when dynasties were earned, not engineered. They'd hold up the San Antonio Spurs or the pre-KD Warriors as examples of doing it the right way. Their argument? Super teams create predictability, that they rob the sport of tension. Why show up if you already know who's going to win? But here's the twist. The backlash itself would become part of the spectacle. Fans wouldn't just tune in to watch this team dominate. They'd tune in hoping to see them fail. Every game would feel like a championship. Every arena they entered, they'd be the villains. Every missed shot, every sideline argument, every bad loss, magnified, memed, and debated endlessly. Because that's the double-edged sword of greatness. People either want to see you reign, or they want to watch you fall. And for this team, The pressure would be unimaginable. Anything short of a title would be considered a failure of historic proportions. They wouldn't just be playing basketball, they'd be performing under a microscope, with every move dissected by analysts, fans, and rivals alike. The emotional toll alone could rival the physical one. And then comes the human factor, the egos, the expectations, the money. History has shown us what happens when too much talent collides. Not every super team survives the weight of its own ambition. For every dynasty like the Warriors, there's a cautionary tale, like the Brooklyn Nets experiment that imploded under its own pressure. Now layer in the financial drama. The WNBA salary cap is far more restrictive than the NBA's, which makes this kind of roster construction nearly impossible without serious sacrifice. Some players would have to make brutal choices. Take the max contract somewhere else, or accept less for a guaranteed shot at history. Those decisions would spark another media firestorm. Who took the pay cut? Who refused? Who's really in it for legacy and who's chasing the bag? The narrative writes itself. Because that's what makes this super team idea so fascinating. It's not just about basketball. It's about human nature. Ambition, ego, sacrifice, and legacy, all colliding under the bright lights of a league trying to redefine itself. It's a high-stakes gamble that could either birth a dynasty or implode spectacularly under the weight of its own legend. To build a super team of this magnitude, the challenge isn't just talent, it's math. The salary cap becomes the invisible opponent every general manager has to outsmart. Maximum contracts, supermax deals, and veteran minimums all collide in a high-stakes financial puzzle that could make or break this vision. For this juggernaut to work, at least 1 or 2 stars would have to take less than their true market value, and that's where the real drama begins. Imagine Caitlin Clark as the face of the franchise, rightfully commanding a full max contract. Her star power, box office draw, and record-breaking viewership make her worth every penny. She's the league's golden ticket. But then there's Sophie Cunningham, the team's defensive heartbeat, the enforcer whose toughness and leadership make her irreplaceable. For the roster to balance, she'd have to accept a smaller deal than she could command elsewhere. Then you factor in the elite post player and the versatile forward, both cornerstones of this dream lineup, who'd face the same gut check decision. Am I willing to sacrifice millions for a shot at immortality? That's where the psychological side of team building kicks in. How long does that sacrifice last before tension brews? Before someone quietly wonders if they're being undervalued? Championship glory is intoxicating, but money and ego are powerful forces, too. However, this equation isn't purely financial. There's a hidden layer: exposure. Playing alongside Caitlin Clark means more nationally televised games, more all-star appearances, and more endorsement opportunities. The trade-off becomes strategic. Take less salary, but cash in on visibility and off-court deals. For many players, the math could actually balance out in the long run. But assembling this much talent wouldn't just test players, it would test ownership. If the WNBA ever implements a luxury tax system similar to the NBA's, this kind of roster would push those limits to the breaking point. Only franchises in major markets, backed by wealthy ownership groups, could afford to play this game. That immediately raises uncomfortable questions. Is the league creating a system where only the rich get richer? What happens to small market teams that can't compete financially? That conversation alone would dominate sports media. Every offseason, signing would be dissected. Every pay cut would trigger a fresh round of debates. Did she really do it for the ring? Or was there something else behind the scenes? The business of basketball would become as fascinating as the basketball itself. And if this 2026 super team actually became reality, it wouldn't just rewrite the competitive landscape. It would rewrite the DNA of the WNBA. It would mark the dawn of a new era, one defined by player empowerment and movement. Stars wouldn't wait for trades or free agency windows. They'd recruit each other directly. DMs, group chats, public posts. This would be the buddy ball era taken to its extreme. Players wouldn't just want to win, they'd want to control how, where, and with whom they win. The ripple effects would be seismic. Smaller market teams like the Connecticut Sun or Indiana Fever would have to reinvent themselves. leaning into elite coaching, analytics, and player development to stay competitive. They've become the league's ultimate underdog stories, proving that system basketball can still take down giants. Big market teams like the Las Vegas Aces and New York Liberty would double down, chasing their own megastar combinations in response, igniting a full-scale arms race across the league. The middle ground would vanish. You'd either be building a championship roster or tearing it down to rebuild. Mediocre but competitive wouldn't cut it anymore. Player movement would skyrocket. Trade requests, super team rumors, open recruitment through social media. Every offseason would feel like NBA free agency week, chaotic, dramatic, and addictive. And hovering above it all, the WNBA Players Association would gain massive leverage in the next collective bargaining negotiations. With stars driving the narrative and fan engagement, players would hold more power than ever, shaping not just rosters, but the future structure of the league itself. Because make no mistake, if this super team ever materialized, it wouldn't just change who wins championships. It would change how the WNBA operates at its core. This would be more than a roster. It would be a revolution, a new blueprint for how power, money, and legacy collide in women's basketball. With players openly showing they're willing to sacrifice money for the chance to win, the balance of power in the WNBA would shift dramatically. The Players' Union would seize the moment, arguing that if athletes are prioritizing winning over paychecks, the league should meet them halfway with higher salary caps, better benefits, and improved working conditions. The WNBA would face an unprecedented challenge: how to keep everyone, players, owners, and fans, satisfied while navigating this new era of player empowerment. Television and streaming networks would quickly recognize the opportunity. A super team led by Caitlin Clark would be ratings gold, every game a primetime event. Networks would compete for broadcasting rights, sparking richer TV deals and more exposure across all platforms. The result? More revenue, higher salary caps, and growth for every player in the league. The rising tide would lift all boats, even if some became multi-million-dollar yachts. But the ripple effects wouldn't stop at the professional level. Youth basketball would feel it, too. Young girls watching these powerhouse teams would start dreaming of forming their own super squads with their friends. AAU programs would adjust recruiting strategies, stacking multiple elite players together to mirror the super team formula. College basketball would follow suit, top recruits openly strategizing which programs allow them to team up, not just compete. The entire basketball ecosystem would shift toward collaboration over competition. So, is this shocking 2026 super team the inevitable next step for the WNBA? Is a Caitlin Clark-led dynasty destined to happen, reshaping the league forever? Or is it a dangerous experiment that could fracture parity and create a league of giants and everyone else? The blueprint is there. The conversations are already happening. The only question is, who's bold enough to build it? Some general managers, even with the financial backing, might hesitate. They'd fear the backlash, the expectations, and the microscope that comes with being the villain. Others would embrace it, seeing it as their legacy move, the one decision that could define their career and etch their franchise into history. Ownership groups would debate behind closed doors. Is the financial risk worth the cultural payoff? Can they handle the pressure, the spotlight, and the scrutiny that come with being that team? And then there's Caitlin Clark herself. She may hold the key to it all. Does she want to lead the next great WNBA dynasty, to become the centerpiece of a super team that redefines modern basketball? Or does she prefer to take the slower, more organic route, building a winner from the ground up? Her decision could determine the league's direction for the next decade. If she embraces the super team model and succeeds, she validates player empowerment and bold roster construction, turning it from a theory into a blueprint. If she resists it, choosing loyalty and legacy over convenience, it could slow the movement and preserve the traditional model of team building. But one truth remains: the conversation has already begun, and there's no turning back. Whether this exact lineup ever materializes or not, the idea of WNBA super teams has taken root in the minds of players, executives, and fans alike. The league stands at a crossroads. Will it lean into the drama, star power, and spectacle that super teams bring? Or will it fight to maintain balance, ensuring every franchise has a fair shot at glory? History offers a clue. Once players taste true empowerment, there's no going back. Even if this specific Caitlin Clark super team never comes to life, the era of aggressive player movement, strategic roster building, and public recruiting has already begun. The question isn't if change is coming, it's how seismic that change will be and whether the WNBA is ready to handle it. Because as we speak, front offices are making phone calls, agents are whispering, players are planning. Somewhere, a general manager is staring at a whiteboard, sketching out that exact 2026 lineup, wondering if they have the courage to make history. The stage is set. The dominoes are lining up. The basketball world is watching. Will someone actually pull the trigger and build this super team? Or will it remain one of the greatest what-if scenarios in WNBA history? Time will tell, but one thing is certain. The WNBA will never be the same again.